Peace and Security Department, PSD, of the Commission of the African Union provides support to the efforts aimed at promoting peace, security and stability on the continent.
The Peace and Security Department is the flagship of all departments of the African Union Commission. It has become so not because we wanted it to be so, but because by the nature of our missions, we reflect the realities in the continent and we act to change those realities to bring about peace, stability, security in the continent. And as you know, peace, security and stability are prerequisite for the development as well as for the integration of the continent and the promotion of our shared values. So we focus quite naturally on prevention of conflicts. It's extremely important to prevent. Prevention has no cost, as everybody knows. Conflicts, once it breaks up, becomes very costly in human lives as well as in damages of all sorts. We focus equally on conflict management, conflict resolution, post-conflict reconstruction and development. So it is a variety of actions which spread from prevention to post-conflict reconstruction.
The department comprises 4 divisions: the Peace and Security Council Secretariat, the Conflict Management Division, CMD, the Defense and Security Division, DSD, the Peace Support Operation Division, PSOD.
Establishment of an overall peace and security architecture, so that we can have the required institutions to handle peace and security issues on the continent. And that has been a long work involving drafting of legal instruments, getting the ratification, but also following up to put in place structures such as the Peace and Security Council, the African Standby Force, the Continental Early Warning System. So that is one key component. The second one has to do with the daily action on the ground to address peace and security issues. We can't say that we'll wait until all the structures are ready for us to be involved. So we have to act on the ground while still building institutions. And I believe that today there is hardly a conflict situation on the continent in which the African Union is not involved or even is not playing a lead role. Take Somalia, we take Sudan, we take Cote d'Ivoire, just to list few, the most recent ones. The third one has to do with the overall efforts we are doing to address other issues that are not directly related to conflict situation, but that do have a bearing on conflict issues, on peace and security issues, from small arms to landmines to issues of children in armed conflicts, but also to issues of borders or other issues such as furthering democratization processes on the continent, good governance as part of the overall efforts to prevent conflicts.
The mandate of the Peace and Security Department is to support, in the first place, the Peace and Security Council in carrying out its responsibilities as provided for under the protocol relating to the establishment of the AU Peace and Security Council. The other aspect of the mandate of the Peace and Security Department is to support the Commission in its activities which are aimed at supporting the promotion of peace, security and stability in Africa.
The Continental Early Warning System is one of the 5 pillars of the African peace and security architecture. So the main purpose of the Continental Early Warning System is the anticipation and prevention of conflicts on the continent. So this mandate was given to us by the Peace and Security Council protocol. And afterwards, the governmental experts meeting that was held in South Africa, Kempton Park, in 2006, gave us the mandate to operationalize the Continental Early Warning System. The Situation Room is an integral part of the Continental Early Warning System. The Situation Room gathers various types of data. We gather data on events, we gather data on structural, what we call structural data, as well as actors' profiles. So all this information comes from various sources. If you take the events data, we gather events data primarily from what we call our primary information providers, which are our field missions. Currently, the African Union has about 11 field missions. And most of our field missions do send us a daily situation report. In order to do that, we've developed a software called the Africa Reporter software, which facilitates the submission of situation and incident reports.
The African Union Border Program is the unit of the African Union that is been given the responsibility of preventing border-related conflicts and promoting regional integration through the following. First is to help the African countries delimit and demarcate their boundaries, and second, to promote cross-border cooperation, and three, to build the capacity of the African states to be able to delimit, demarcate, and manage their borders in such a way that they will meet the three objectives that I just pointed out. The impact of borders on conflict is that a lot of African borders, since they were inherited from the colonial masters at the dawn of independence in the 1960s, were not properly marked, or they were not properly defined. Because of this poor definition of the borders, many of them are becoming sources of conflict, and African countries have found out that if they don't do something in terms of clearly marking them, they will lead to many conflict which will not be good for the integration and also for the peace and security of the continent.
The Panel of the Wise, as you may know, is mandated to support the efforts of the chairperson of the Commission and the Peace and Security Council of the African Union in the area of conflict prevention. In so doing, it is also called to advise both of these organs of the African Union, and to also try to bring into the surface some of the issues that are sometimes neglected or that are not necessarily considered by the policy organs of the African Union, such as the issues of impunity, justice and reconciliations, or even women and children in armed conflicts, and how that has an impact on the most vulnerable ones. Well, as an advisory body of the African Union, the Panel of the Wise can also use its good officers to do conflict mediation, but also to try to broker peace agreements between warring parties. So the Panel of the Wise is definitely one of the critical pillars of the peace and security architecture of the African Union. It is one of the newest, or one of the youngest organs of the Peace and Security Council architecture. And as you may guess easily, it has trying to find a niche and trying to also find, to strengthen its modus operandi. So it's a fairly new organ, but quite fairly ambitious. So we're trying to make sure that it will become an effective tool for the African Union.
In accordance with the Constitutive Act of the African Union and the protocol relating to the creation of the Peace and Security Council and the Commission's strategic plan, there has been a shift and focus, deliberate enough, on post-conflict reconstruction. And this issue has been from the background of the fact that we have done many peace deals, and actually when the world attention is taken off that country, the country relapses to another cycle of violence. Why so? Because international attention only focused on achieving the peace. And as you well know, once we say elections have been conducted, people pack their bags and leave. But the country was still so fragile. And in most of the cases, people were still coming to terms with the issues they were dealing with. And so the African Union recommended that the AU should come up with its own policy on post-conflict reconstruction and development. And what were these objectives? Objectives to ensure that we move from this type of peace deal where we do it and turn our backs. We try to see how we can sustain the peace process, even after everybody has left. Secondly, one of the key objectives was also to come up with a policy, because it is also one thing to intervene, and it's also another thing to have a concrete policy, a comprehensive policy, if I could say it. And that's what the document that I have here now in front of you, which I would like people to know more about. This is the document, Post-Conflict Reconstruction and Development PRC policy that was adopted in Banjul in the Gambia in July 2006.